Hey everyone, and welcome to Got Questions, a space to discuss the questions that Gen Z are asking. The aim of this show is not to have all the answers, but to hopefully journey together in discovery.
This content has been created by Alpha Youth. Alpha, also known as the Alpha Course, is an opportunity to explore the meaning of life, faith and purpose in a safe space where no question is off the table.
That's right. So today, we're talking all about the future. We continue to see society evolving at a speedy rate, and it seems impossible to play catch up and give ourselves an accurate prediction of what is to come. So we're going to hear what future trends Gen Z are actually passionate and excited about.
Let's get into the conversation and find out more.
So before we get into the chat today, we're just going to go over our 3 key cultures. Love listens, and if you disagree with someone, which we probably will at some point, we do it respectfully. And the third one is that your opinion matters. Like whatever your thoughts is, it counts. So please don't stay quiet, speak it out, and there's no wrong answer here. So today we're discussing the future trends. That's why I've worn my Steve Jobs roll neck. It's like a weak man strangling you for the whole day. That's what it feels like. But we're going to chat about whatever you want. Let's talk about going into space. Let's talk about AI chips. Let's talk about self-driving cars. Let's talk about cashless society. I don't know. It's totally up to you. So first question, and this is to anybody, when it comes to future trends, what excites you and what worries you?
Cashless society excites me.
Yeah?
Because there's still some shops, like it's rare, but there's still some shops that are like, oh, only cash. And I'm like, oh, I never have cash. So yeah, cashless society.
Nice. Do you think you would be spending more? So like back in my day, right, when I got paid in cash, I'd have a wad, and I say a wad, it was like a couple of notes. And for me, once I'd spent it, I'm like, I've got no money. So I was a lot more aware of how much money I had. But like, if it's always on your card, you can go like tap, tap, tappy, and then you're like, oh, I've got no money left. Do you find it like you just get through your money because you can tap?
It's a lot easier to like lose control of how much you're spending, because obviously it's like if you have £10, you're like, oh, I've only got £5 left. Right. But with like cashless society, you're literally just like Apple Pay here, Apple Pay there. Yeah. So it is easier to lose control.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when I feel like I don't know if I'm the only one, but like you always want an even number on your thing. So you're like, oh, I've got £3. Then we go and you buy something randomly, you just tap in, and then you just try to make it even. So yeah, I do feel like it does make you tap a lot.
That is incredible.
It makes you tap a lot. Yeah.
You're even numbering your like Monzo.
Yeah. That's
That's
mind-blowing.
huge. What a moment.
We need to talk about
I'm
that.
interested about my daughter, right? She's 4 and she talks to Alexa. But I think she, at some point, a couple of years back, I think she had a relationship with Alexa. Like, it was her friend.
Right.
I was just really interested in me, like, how... I'd never thought that you could have a relationship with a robot before.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when she's talking about Alexa, it was like, they were like mates.
Yeah.
Whereas Alexa, for me, is just someone who sets an alarm when I need to leave the fish fingers in.
Yeah.
For whatever.
Yeah, my little sister, she gets any information from, because she has Google, so any information, any random topic she wants to know, she just asks Google because that's literally her pal. So yeah.
So, guys, we're also joined by Ben Towers. Right, Ben, I've never met you. But what I thought I'd do is I'd stalk you before. So now I feel as if I know you. So Ben, it says here that you are an award-winning young entrepreneur. You started your business at 11. You are now 22, is that correct?
Yep.
Amazing, fact-checking. And you advise the UK government, and you're also a founder of your company called Tahura. Have I said that right? But it also says that you were voted the smartest kid on the planet by the Times.
No way.
Wow.
Is that like your biggest flex?
We need to test that.
You could say so, yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
so,
say
yeah, that's incredible. Like, gosh. Do you feel as if, like, as a young person, you're just carrying so much and you've accomplished so much, but obviously there's so much more. And we want to know the more, basically. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think for me, that it's just, but I always want to know more. And it also in my mindset, I'm always like wanting to learn, always wanting to progress. And I think you also have like the business side of things, which I learned all of that just doing it. Like you learned of it. I didn't go to like classes in school about it. I just started it and started learning. And it's something like we see so much now across society. And even like we talk about the future, something that's going to be so common. When we think about like, if your fridge breaks, what do? You just learn it yourself and you go on YouTube and you learn how to fix it. And it's this changing mindset we're now going through where we just learn ourselves and just do it. And I think that's massively shaping the future, but also shaping almost how we've then taken control and how we've almost turned around and said, we want to make something different. And you've seen things like NFTs, which is like, you know, like the cash
What are
society.
NFTs?
So it's non-fungible tokens. It's basically
Fungible.
Fungible, yeah.
What does that mean?
So it basically means that there's no way of you copying it or like getting a version of it. So it's built on blockchain, but it's a way of like smart managing things. So if you own that laptop, or like maybe not more virtual, but if you own something, there's no way of me claiming it's mine, because using blockchain we can like say that it's just yours, and that's because people have like turned around and said we need to be in control.
What's the blockchain?
So blockchain.
You are the smartest kid on the planet.
So the top line of blockchain is basically, it's all decentralized. So if you were to, if I have to really simplify it, if you were to like go and like hack a website or a digital thing, you'd typically have a certain number of servers that you could go to, and they would have the whole file or part of that file on that server, which means that you could, in theory, if you manage to get through, get that file, get passwords, credit card numbers, all that sort of thing. On blockchain, you then have this idea of decentralization. So basically, imagine one piece of data being split across multiple devices, so not just on one, but also then other devices that are then there to check if that device is still active and valid. So then if you try to hack it, you can only hack into that one device at a time. The other devices look at that device and go, that's not an accurate record of what's going on, and then get out a system. So it's like almost like not a human way, but it's like a peer moderation way of checking that it's accurate, which is the whole idea about us being put into control, because now it's a way of like ensuring accuracy compared to, in like, you had a cash society, there was always that fear of the government could print more money, or you could like forge fake money and so on, whereas when it's run like this way about Bitcoin and so on, that's run on blockchain. So that's the idea that you can't then forge or create or manipulate.
I can see why you were called the smartest
Yeah.
kid.
Wow.
Mind
I was
blown.
literally like trying to listen to everything you were saying, because
It's
wow.
incredible. I guess what excites you about the future then?
I think it's linked to that is the idea of like human control, and I think that's good and bad. So like the good part is it's now where like we live in a society now where any of us can free wake up and be like we want to change that, or like the cash example, the cash is not being done in the right way. Let's find a new way of making it better for us and more secure in the way we want it to be. But then there is the negative side of it, which I think is always worth talking about because it is massive, and that's when humans have so much control on an individual basis, not on like an infrastructural level, you now open up the doors to vulnerabilities, you open up the doors to very biased thinking. So if you put it really blunt, if you were to get a bunch of middle-aged white men in a room to produce a bit of technology, then that technology is going to think like them. So that's then the other challenge you then face, is about this diversity in creation and also when creating it. So like blockchain and things like that, that's not regulated. So it's not like you have with banks where you have the FCA looking at this and going, you can spend this, you can't do that, you can do that. So then there is the good of that and there's also the bad of that. So I think that's like the positive part of the future, but then the part we need to be mindful of is, could we use that to our own disadvantage?
If you were back at school now, what would you study? So my 4-year-old, what should she study now that means she's going to be ready, set for the future, for like when she's a bit older?
I've always said my kids are doing software development. Like that's because so for us in Tahora, so that's like the company I'm running now, it's a mobile app. So like we employ like 2/3 of the team are software developers and mobile developers. And the thing that, if I'm honest, the thing that made me think, wow, this is such a career, is the salary a developer can earn. Like you can literally finish university, go and get your first job and get 40K first salary. That's just like from finishing. You can then be 3 or 4 years in and you can be over 100 grand a year salary. And like, so you can earn loads of money doing this sort of thing, which obviously that's the one perk. I'm like, yeah, my kids are doing that. The other side of it is I think the control. And if you think about how our minds work, if any of you were to think of like innovative idea, you typically think of an app or something digital.
Exactly.
So it used to be, oh, I want to build a table, and you like learn the craft to build that table, whereas now your ideas are often more digital. So it's a bit like if you want to be able to live out your ideas and your ambitions, you probably need to have the skills to be able to do that.
Yeah. What subject did you do then to be able to?
So I
get where
did
you were?
I did like computing, did business and things like that, but then I think most of it's just self-interest and like learning, and like we were talking earlier, like just looking onto YouTube and just being like, how do I do this? Like I started off building websites, and so for me it was like, you want to put this logo here, I'll be on how to put a logo there and learn it.
Okay.
And I think it's good to a certain extent because you actually get interested in it.
Okay.
But you also have to be mindful of, you then only know what you want to know. Like if you don't want to know how to make that button red, you'll never know
Yeah.
unless you somehow think about it. So I think that's like the pros and the cons, but it's something which is driving that society to get like these extreme like experts, people in these spaces at a young age because we can just focus and just keep researching, and we have all this data on our phones, on our laptops available to us, and so we can just do it so easily.
Was it something that was like your family put into you, like your parents put into you, or is it just literally just a personal?
I think it was more just like encouragement to say, go out and do it. Like my parents never forced me to start a business, never forced me to do any of this space. Like, even what I've just spoken about, it goes straight over their head. Like for them, it's just like not what they're used to. So for them, it was more like encouragement to say, you know what, you can do it. We're here behind you, and just that constant reminding of who you are. I think actually more important.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Ben, what made you want to start your business, and what gave you, you know, the desires to just like go for it?
Yeah, so Tahora is actually, so it's a Maori name, so it means together and health. And it was something which I always wanted to like really do because I had like my close family and friends going through their like mental health challenges. And I felt like there's work to be done in society because we do so much work on like, maybe you're unwell, how can we treat you, or how can we get you to support and so on, which is amazing. But then there's like this stage one side of things actually around just lack of connection. And we now live in this lonely society, the most connected yet disconnected generation. We have all these people available to us on like Instagram and so on, but we don't truly know them. And so that's in a sense what we're really trying to do as Tahora, is to go, how can we connect people up? I started it after like going for some consultancy out in New Zealand. After coming back, seeing the way that like, Maoris live community is a lot more maybe focused, a lot more loving than maybe we'd do it. So like everyone in this room, if we were all like one community and you were unwell, we'd all like chip in, bring you food, bring you drinks, and look and care for you. And that's something I think we're missing a lot in society. So then Tahora applies that in the workplace setting. So we go into corporates and we help employees to meet other employees like them.
Ben, that's just so much. We absolutely love hearing from you. We are going to continue the conversation a little later on, but right now, let's check in with our regional Alpha Youth. Take a look.
For things about the future that I'm excited for, one major thing is electric cars, because I feel like that's going to be like bring down a drastic level of waste, air pollution, because gas cars use fuel, and then there's this thing CO2 that's released into the air. So I'm really excited for electric cars to be used more and for them to be more affordable, even though like they're really expensive. But I hope that in the future we're able to get like reasonable prices so everyone can kind of get these cars as well.
I think as well it's remarkable to think of what the future can hold, especially in Dubai. They're in the process of making like a bullet train to cover the 100-kilometer distance between Abu Dhabi and Dubai in like 7 minutes. Then they're planning on having a train, underwater train from Dubai to Mumbai that covers it in 2 hours. I mean, like the possibilities are endless. I mean, like 20 years ago, you think that's impossible. 100 kilometers in a couple of minutes, that would be insane. But the possibilities are endless. And now like having a digital church, you would never be able to think of that a couple of years back.
I, for one, am really excited to see how much of the universe we'll get to explore in the next, like 100 years or so, because there's so precious little that we actually have been able to see through photographs or through anything else. So I'm really excited to be able to appreciate more of God's creation and not just through like simulations.
As things grow to be more efficient, are we just gonna lose sight of what's important in life and just use this technology to be busy all the time? And you already see it today with like the access that computers give us to work all the time as we're on the go, no matter where we are. Our cell phones, we can do calls from wherever we are if we have a meeting we need to be in or something. And so just as that increases, how that's going to affect our just ability to be present with people and really build relationships and different things like that.
This does spark that action of dreams becoming into realities. This does push me to, and I owe it to my parents who have worked day and night, hours and hours on end, to continue dreaming and continue making my dreams into reality.
How good was that Zoom? I don't know about you, but I love listening to young people from different cultures around the world, not just here in the UK. So thank you to everyone who's been playing your part in that. That's amazing. Right, we're going to continue the conversation, and we've got a very, very special guest with us today. Mal Fletcher is a very good friend. He is a role model of mine, and he has deeply impacted my family, both from what you've said on the platform and speaking online and on the news, but also just privately, the text messages and the encouragement. So thank you so much for being with us. For those of you who don't know Mal, Mal is a keynote speaker, a futurist and social commentator for BBC, Sky, ABC and R4, broadcaster and author based in London, also the chairman of 2030 Plus, the London-based Futures Forum. Can we put our hands together and welcome Mal?
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Dan.
Now, before we start chatting about the future and the future trends, I actually want to dig back into your history, if that's all right, because I've been doing a bit of research. You were part of Youth Alive in 1981, and back then you would be speaking to Gen X. So Gen X is people aged 40 to 54, which would be pretty much the parents of Gen Z who are with us today. What was it like back then? What did you speak to Gen X to encourage them? And what was Youth Alive like?
Oh, this was the Jurassic era, you understand. It's a very long time ago. Yeah, look, Gen X had trouble with identity and meaning, hence the name Gen X, really. And in Australia, where I come from, we had one of the top 3 teenage suicide rates in the developed world, and that shocked a lot of people in Australia. Youth Alive was partly a response to that, hence the name Youth Alive, but it was also a statement about Christianity. Because I looked around and I couldn't see anything in my homeland that really presented Christian truth in a way that related to teenagers, in a way they could understand. This was a time, guys, when drums were not allowed in church, when rock and roll wasn't allowed in church. So I came out of university, was the leader of my home youth group in Melbourne, Australia, started experimenting with some things. The thing grew very quickly, and from there we started gathering other groups around us. Started off with 300 then in Melbourne, Australia, and in 10 years, thank God, we had between 80 and 100,000 young people in major venues, concert venues, football venues in Australia. As of today, now 137,000 young people have come to Christ across all the generations through Youth Alive in Australia. And it sparked things like Planet Shake, as some of you have heard of that. Hillsong United was influenced by Youth Alive and others around the world. So when a group of young adults of any generation decide they want to live for something bigger than they are, something great can happen.
That's incredible. Wow. So inspiring just hearing that, Mal. I'm going to open the floor up now. We're going to continue our conversation on future trends. So anyone got any questions for Mal?
So what future trends excite you and scare you the most?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking a simple one to begin with.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. There's a lot of really positive things. I think things like digital medicine, great advances in technology there. Remote education has come into its own with COVID. Great innovations there. Things like environmental technologies. Everybody talks about the bad things with the environment, but there's actually some really positive techs coming out now. And it's mostly younger people who devise them. But I think one of the things that concerns me is the power of big tech companies. Big tech preaches to all of us about equality and promoting equality, but it actually in its work is promoting social inequalities. The gap between the tech haves and have-nots is growing across the world. We find that a lot of people can't access cash properly, money properly, because they don't have access to high-speed Wi-Fi and so on. And big tech wants to put stuff up in the sky to beam down internet at us or for us. But when you look at the sums, you realise what they're charging for us to use it is way beyond our budget. And it says it wants to put the same thing in the skies to provide internet for underdeveloped countries. But it's not doing it to be altruistic, it's doing it for data purposes. That's its bread and butter. So I'm concerned about that. I'm also a little concerned about the way digital, if we overuse it, changes our cognition, our thinking. So there's lots of evidence now that we have things like transactional relationships with machines. My wife and I have been married for 41 years in a few weeks' time. And when we got married, we formed a transactional relationship. Davina remembers some things better than I do. I remember some things better than she does. And together we kind of get it right now and again. We do that now more often now with machines than we do with people. So you and I don't remember what we learn on the internet. We remember where we learned it. We rely on Pocket or Evernote or something to store the information. And because it's not in my memory, it's of no use to me in producing new ideas and innovation. So there's a mixed bag, isn't there? I think there's good things in what's going on and something we need to watch for.
So with the the trends of like the AI robots and all that kind of stuff, is it something that terrifies you just based on what you just said?
No, it doesn't terrify me. I think we have to remember that artificial intelligence is artificial. Technologists and neuroscience agree on this, that we're not anywhere near being able to emulate the function of a human brain in a machine yet. So machines can do amazing things. I mean, there are AI devices now that can learn to drive a car, not by being programmed for it, but by watching you drive a car. They collect all the data you generate as you drive, then they identify patterns in the data, then they infer rules on top of the patterns, and by doing all that, they can simply copy you. But AI is still thinking in straight lines. It can't do many complex tasks all at once in the way that your brain does every second of every day. So I'm not scared of it, but I do think there's things we need to watch. The use of AI, for example, in warfare, to produce, say, killer autonomous drones that decide where they're going to fly and who they're going to kill. Things like AI used in employment, which could lead to unemployment and underemployment. We expect in the next 20 years something like 800 million jobs to be automated. That can be a good thing. It liberates us to have ideas, but it also means we're putting people out of work. And the question then is, how do we transition those people into new kinds of work? So I'm not scared of it, but yes, I'm watching.
How do you think that will affect your faith, maybe in years to come?
Medicine specifically?
Well, not necessarily. Just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm really saying. I don't know what
Medical technology?
Medical technology.
Yeah, I don't think medical technology will affect my faith all that much. I mean, according to Genesis, God gave us the ability to be stewards of creation and to subdue the earth, which doesn't mean, by the way, to dominate it. That's a misreading. It doesn't mean to dominate it. It means to serve it and steward it, to take care of it lovingly on God's behalf. So in the Christian worldview, I'm told to get everything I can out of the natural order using my own creativity. So medicine is really about that. It's about taking things out of nature and extracting them and using them in ways and engineering things so that there's benefit to humankind and the environment. So I'm not threatened by that. I know some Christians perhaps are. Personally, I'm not. I think there are great opportunities out there for Christians and others to be very innovative. Whether you're a Christian or not, you know, if you've got innovative ability, now's the time to use it, because the world needs problem solvers. Innovation is not creativity. People playing guitar, that's arts. I was an architect. There's a lot of creativity in that, but innovation is what we're sitting on. It's somebody who designed something to meet a need. And this is the time, I think, for young people to really step up to the plate in terms of innovation in medicine and all kinds of areas. Is that okay?
Mel, we were talking earlier about a cashless society. You know, I talked about when I was younger, I'd get paid and I'd have a wad of cash and I could see it, and when it was gone, it was gone. And now, you know, it's kind of, you don't see it and you just kind of tap away. When it is, you know, thinking about the future, having a cashless society, you know, what are the pros and what are the cons of that?
Well, I think we know the pros pretty well, because it's very efficient, it's very convenient, it's easy to use, you know, wave a card, touch, there it goes. You touched on one of the downsides, which is the weightlessness of ones and zeros on a computer screen. Another one I think that we should be concerned about is the fact that using cashless disadvantages the poor. There are something like 1.5 million people down in this country who are considered poor who don't have a bank account.
Wow.
And those who do have an account don't have any access to high-speed Wi-Fi. So where do the tech have-nots go for their money? Yeah. If we went fully cashless, we're partly cashless now, but if we went fully cashless, it would disadvantage the elderly. You might know some older people that have trouble with numeracy because of mental decline. They prefer money they can see and feel and touch. So where do they go for their money? There's also this issue of data generation. Every time we use cashless, we generate data which is sent to a provider. The data can be just about the purchase you've made, but it can also include your bank account number, your name, your address, and certainly your buyer preferences. And this is why big tech, again, coming back to big tech, is really interested in pushing cashlessness, because for them it generates data, and that's what they're all about. That's how they make their money. They're trying to set up their own cyber currencies now, companies like Google, because they see the benefits of data generation. So I think we have to be really careful to see again that technology is a good servant but a rotten master. Let's combine the two. Let's have cash and cashless in an economy that's fair to everybody.
Ben, how do you feel about that? Like what he's just said about like how it's a you said it's a, just repeat what you just said about.
It's a good servant, it's a rotten master.
Do you feel as if like working right now and how you're doing things, do you sense that similar, like, I guess, narrative?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I was actually about to ask you about like data as well, because you have a massive population of society who like are about data numb, where we just don't care the amount of data we're populating and sending off to different servers and what people hold about us. But then there's been like this, almost like this shift in people's mindsets recently who are like proactively trying to come off certain apps, come off certain services to try to control their data. And so I think different people have different views on it. I'm almost of a view, I'm sort of in the middle where I was like, you know what, I just want to live my life and see. But I'd be interested to see, I don't know, Mal, what you think about like your data.
Well, it's a great point. I mean, in your generation, there's a growing number of people that I call techno-refuseniks, who, and there's a number of studies that back that up here in this country and the US. And they're people who want, as you say, to get the benefits of digital, and there are so many, but they want to draw a line a bit and say, I want to control who knows what about me. You know, the Zuck said a few years ago, Mark Zuckerberg, privacy is dead. But it isn't, and it can't be, because we all make worse decisions when we feel people are watching us. Now, that's not me speaking anecdotally, that's been proven through experiment and observation. So we need privacy just to make good choices, sound choices, independent choices. So yeah, I think there's a growing number of people who think just like you do, who want the best of digital, but say we've got to draw a line about who knows what about me. I'm not the sum total of my data. Facebook, you can have all the data you want, but you don't know me.
Mal, I'm a youth pastor. There's Gen Zers watching this, Gen Z in the room. What would your one piece of advice be to them? What would you say to them listening today?
Well, I've got to narrow it down to one. So I'd say technology is not destiny. You're not a product of the techs you use, no matter how cool they are. You're a product of how you choose to use them. It's human choice, even today, that makes the difference between a great future and something less desirable. So be very careful of the choices you make about technology and everything else.
Wow, sound advice, wisdom. My mind has been blown. Thank you so much, Ben and Mel. Why don't we give them a round of applause just to be like, we've loved every second of it. And why don't we end this time in prayer? Noah?
I would love to. Yeah, Father, we thank you for these incredible conversations today. We thank you for Mal. We thank you for Ben, Lord. And yeah, we just pray, you know, as Gen Z, you know, us chilling here, Lord, I pray that we can really live out what these guys are saying into our day-to-day lives. Thank you, Lord, for everything. Amen.
Amen.
We hope you enjoyed our chat today. We'd love to hear from you, so please do get in touch.
If you've never joined an Alpha course, they take place all around the globe. They are not just for youth. Everyone of every age, background and experience can be a part of one. They are strictly inclusive, so why not join us?
That's right, so if you want to know more, head to alpha.org/youth and check out our social media channels. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.